सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचम् रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। हरि ओम।
Wrong mic was selected. Just change it. Hopefully the volume is better now. Okay. We were studying the topic of Pratyaksha Pramana. If somebody might ask, why are we so elaborately studying Pratyaksha Pramana if it is not going to reveal the nature of Atman anyway? It is said these Pramanas are result of thinking by our great rishis. So as you saw in the last session, that so many rishis from different schools of thoughts have closely paid attention to how does cognition take place. They might be from other school of thought, but we can always benefit from their inquiry. And they were very sincere thinkers. I just want to make sure they're okay. Very sincere thinkers, that whatever they thought, they systematically came to that point. Means they will lay everything on the table and they will say, if you have any doubt, let us discuss, let us question. Okay, so like that we will see a little bit about different darshanas. In the last session, we had seen that Pratyaksha is of three types. One is called as Savikalpa Pratyaksha. If you take the example, it's easier to connect. Like if you see some person, see some painting, although you are seeing only form, but so many other things are coming along with it. That was called as Savikalpa Pratyaksha. What is Vedanta's opinion on all these three words? We will come back later. Okay, now let us just go with this. Second one was Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha, where it was said, you might see something, but you don't remember anything except that form. Like a newborn baby looking right after birth, that baby doesn't know details and so many other things. So this is another view. We said Pratyaksha can also be Nirvikalpa. Vikalpa means attributes, variety. None of that is there in Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha. Once we look at Vedanta's understanding, this word will become even more clearer. And third was Yogaja Pratyaksha, where some Ashtanga Yoga sadhana can be done to such a sincere and greater extent that this yogi is able to break barriers of the sense organs. And it's not something very easily done. That's why examples also we should take very carefully. Somebody like Vasishtha ji, Vedavyas ji, they were rishis who had this Yogaja Pratyaksha. Then we saw the topic of how does cognition take place. Right? One school of thought said, when sense organs come in contact with objects, cognition will take place. Another school of thought came and said, Well, many a times sense organs do come in contact, but knowledge does not take place of that object. Right? Sometimes even if you are eating something and your mind is not there, and somebody asks you, did you taste it? What ingredient I put inside? You say, no, what ingredient is it? Now, why did that happen? Because there is some other element in addition to this sense organ which decides whether knowledge of that object has taken place or not. So that school of thought said mind is needed. Mind goes and pervades that object. In Sanskrit, it is tat akara vritti. Tat akara means of that object, this mind has taken the form. Akara means form, tat means that object. Vritti is thought. Only when that thought has become clear about that object, then cognition will take place. There are some games that children play, right? They'll keep 5 things and have a cover on top of it. They'll quickly take it out and say, see all those things, and then again. This is same prakriya. If vritti has taken place of that object, then you can quickly see all the things and you can again say it back. Important thing to note here is, in all the school of thoughts, the exclusive instrument for cognition is still the sense organ. We should not say mind has become pramana, or you should not say something else is. Now, when we go to Vedanta, we should not say something else has become the exclusive means of knowledge. For Pratyaksha Pramana, sense organs will always remain exclusive means of knowledge. How this cognition takes place, there are different schools of thoughts. Okay, I think this question also was there last time. And one request is, for the sake of animation and making this more graphic, I'm trying to bring images like this, but please don't take them literally. Okay, means mind is not something which is stuck here in the head, and that is not the way we want to understand this mind. That is brain. Okay, so we should not mix up brain and mind. But for the sake of this demonstration, I think these images are helpful. And systematically, if we understand Pratyaksha Pramana that day we were discussing, we will appreciate how to keep our mind in Brahma while we are seeing the world outside. Okay, when we come to Vedanta's view, we will see that. So if you just look at what this other school of thought has said, right? What did it say? That it is the mind that goes and pervades objects. Not only sense organ, mind has this ability to go and pervade objects. Now you see your own experience, how much of wonder we will see. Mind can go and even pervade a very distant thing in the sky. You say the moon or some other star that you are seeing, you might not see the detail, but still mind has gone there and pervaded it. So it has an ability as though to stretch. So with this thinking, our philosophers try to determine what is the nature of this mind. So one conclusion they reached is, mind is not limited to only this physical body, it is vibhu. Vibhu means it is infinite. And we know that when the stretch is longer, it stresses more. Like you have to put forth effort to see that. So that is one end of the spectrum. Another end of the spectrum is when it is too small. So mind as though has this ability to stretch larger. It can go into finer things also and become small also. Even with sound we hear, if it's a sound which is not very audible, we put forth more effort to hear it. Singers who sing, you will realize they sing like this sometimes. And I always wonder, why do they sing like this? When that sound feedback is more. Cognition of that, their voice, which is there, it is more. So that is just something to appreciate for this nature of the mind. Now the same philosophers, they took this aspect of the mind. Which aspect? Ability to stretch and then become smaller. They said, look into your own mind. There are certain thoughts which makes our mind shrink. There are certain thoughts which make our mind as though expand. Don't take it literally, huh? And they said, if it is a thought of kama or lobha, mind will shrink. Mind will not want to, exhibit it outside. It will shrink more and more. If it is a thought of abhimana, some kind of ahankara, you say, or anger for that matter, they said anger is the one that likes exhibition. Means it will just, it is helpless actually. Whenever it comes in this mind, it will just exhibit. That is, another side of this nature of this mind. One is there are certain thoughts which will make it shrink, certain thoughts which will just, it will come out. And then there are some sattvic thoughts also, which will make this mind expand in a very beautiful way. Right? What we otherwise call as sarvatmya bhava. Sarvatmya means seeing oneness in everything, or seeing my Bhagwan in everything. He said those kind of thoughts will make this mind expand in a very nice way. But important point is to appreciate that mind also contracts and it can expand. The sadhana side of this is a mind which is preoccupied will always be shrunk. Why? Because it's pervading only that small object. Right? On the other hand, a mind that is free, a mind that is not having too much of preoccupation, it is said that mind can pervade even the entire cosmos. What we previously saw, right? Bhuvana jnanam surye sanyamat. Means imagine if you have to do that kind of sadhana, how much reduction I need in my ragadvesha. Ragadvesha means attachment towards a finite thing or aversion towards a finite thing. So in Vedanta also, lot of sadhanas which are mentioned, in particular for upasana and other devotional practices, the main sadhana is letting go of ragadvesha. But the practical side of that is, if smaller things I can let go of, I can hold on to larger things. One of the meaning of the word kavi is krantadarshi. Krantadarshi means they can see things which common people cannot see. It is said, jahan na pahunche ravi, wahan pahunche kavi. Where sun rays cannot reach, there this poet can go and reach. But not any ordinary poetry. But with this free mind, when they're able to think, that mind can pervade a lot of subtler things. But another side is also that, jahan na pahunche kavi, wahan pahunche anubhavi. One who has understood the nature of the self, they can even go beyond that. But important point to note here is, a free mind can pervade greater things. I had shared this earlier, I think, in our Ramayana class or somewhere, that when we had gone to Rishikesh, we went to an ashram to stay there after our Vedanta course. And our class was at 7 o'clock in the morning. But that ashram had their own classes early morning at around 5:30 or something. It was in Hindi, but a lot of young brahmacharis used to come and then they used to study. But the interesting part was the speakers were turned outside. I don't know what they heard inside, but the speakers, they would turn outside, and whoever was going by also, you can listen to whatever is happening inside. And I thought, early morning, mosquitoes so much. I said, let me just go outside now, because anyway I cannot be inside. Let me just go to Gangaji. Gangaji was flowing right next to that ashram. On the way, I heard that one sentence, from this Mahatma Ji inside, and I felt he was telling me only. He was actually telling the brahmacharis who were there. He said, "Arey brahmachariyon, choti choti cheez pakdoge तो बड़ी चीज कैसे समझ आवेगी? No, he said, oh brahmacharis, if you get caught up in small things, how are you going to understand bigger things? And I was just coming out complaining with that mosquito and so many other things. I thought, how did he read my mind? But that's a great sadhana. You will notice this quality in all thinkers. Those who are creative, being able to let go of smaller things. So now let us come to Vedanta. What is cognition? What is Pratyaksha Pramana according to Vedanta Darshna? Until now we saw several other. Now we are seeing what is Vedanta Darshna. Before we go into Vedanta Darshan, we will take one example to understand that will help us map it to this other main concept of Vedanta. So Vedanta says, just like in infinite space, you put one conditioning, it becomes pot space. Space is infinite, but because you have brought the pot conditioning, it is called as pot space. You put a little bigger conditioning or whatever conditioning you want, that space will be called as room space, depending upon the conditioning. You put the third conditioning, a building may be, the same infinite space inside is called as building space. Now, important thing to note here is, when you are measuring the dimension of the pot, the diameter of the pot, what are we actually measuring? We are measuring space. That space which is infinite, when conditioning comes, it becomes measurable. Because we want to know how much of whatever you want to put in that pot, right? We say, what is the space in that pot? Even that room, we use the same word. Is there space in the room? We are measuring the walls, but what we are measuring is the space inside. But what is the point here? That infinite space without undergoing any change, because of conditioning, is appearing as three different things. Three different names are given to it: pot space, room space, and building space. Simple, this example. So now you come to Vedanta. What does Vedanta say about cognition? Vedanta says, just like there is infinite space, there is only infinite Brahman. That is where we should start. Meaning our song should not start on the wrong note. Right? Don't start with sense organ, don't start with object first. First, start with this point, what is the main Siddhanta, what is the main philosophy of Vedanta? That there is only one infinite consciousness. Now, just like in that infinite space, you had one pot conditioning, right? One conditioning is called the knower. This ahankara, that is called the first conditioning. Same consciousness will get the title now of ahankara. Another room space was there, so it is another conditioning of this mind. That is the second one, second conditioning. Mind, we have seen it differently in Dvaita Viveka. I will bring that shloka also, but let us just go to the concept now. Second conditioning is the mind or the thought. Mind means vrittis which are there. And through the sense organ only, third conditioning, which is known, that is object. Just like you had building space, this is also third conditioning. Consciousness gets the name of an object. Now, this is something very different in Vedanta, that entire thing is appearing in Chaitanya only. Pramata, the knower, the knowing of that, the thought, and the object also is Chaitanya only. Now you apply all shlokas of Drik Drisha Viveka, lot of things will become clearer. Vidyaranya Swamiji said, Asti Bhati Priyam, Nama Rupam. 5 things are there. So you take objects also. Nama Rupa is there. Asti Bhati Priyam is this consciousness, which is appearing as this object. And here also you can put the same shloka. Nama Rupa is there of that thought, but it is the same consciousness appearing there. Pramata also, you put the same thing. Knower also, it is the same consciousness which is appearing with a particular name and form. Now all of you have studied Tattva Bodha also. You see the conditioning of an object is Panchikruta Panchamahabhuta. Whereas these 2 conditionings are Apanchikruta Panchamahabhuta. Apanchikruta means ungrossified. Panchikruta means grossified. But important thing to note here is, it is a play of consciousness. Not play of object, not play of sense organs, not even the mind. All of that is there, but the substratum in which all these things are happening is Chaitanya, even in Pratyaksha. So you can write down the technical names of this. The first conditioning, conditioned by the knower, that is called as Pramata Avachinnam Chaitanya. Avachinnam, you can translate it as conditioned. Okay, it's a technical word, but for the sake of English translation, you can say that consciousness which is conditioned by this knower. Pramata Avachinnam Chaitanyam. Conditioned by the mind is called as Pramana Avachinnam Chaitanyam. Pramana Avachinnam Chaitanyam. Conditioned by the object is called as Prameya Avachinnam Chaitanyam. And if you ask Vedantin, how does cognition takes place according to Vedanta? He will say, cognition is the knowledge that takes place when all these 3 are together. Pramata Avachinna Chaitanyam, Pramana Avachinna Chaitanyam, and Prameya Avachinna Chaitanyam. When they come together, cognition takes place. Now you can question this also. Remove Pramata. Pramata gone, these 2 things, knowledge of that will not take place. Like in deep sleep. Knower has gone to sleep. So neither is there mind nor is there object. Knower is there, mind is also there, but your sense organs are closed or thought is not pervading that thing. Then also knowledge will not take place. So like this, if you see different combinations, what we'll understand is 3 things are needed. But important point is, all of it is play of Chaitanya. That is according to Vedanta. I will upload the slides. So if you are writing down something, you will get to write it also later. This same concept we saw in Drik Drishya Viveka. What was it? Chichchaya veshato buddhau bhanam dhistud vidhastita eka ahankrutihi anya syat antahkarana rupini. Names will be different in different texts, but concept is the same. What did Vidyaranya ji call? He called this reflection of consciousness in the knower as ahankara. Eka ahankrutihi. And the second one, he said, conditioned by the mind, is called as antahkarana. And with this, when we see the world, through that cognition takes place. Okay, just those 2 words you can note down. One is called as ahankara, second is called as the mind. You don't have to write the shloka also. We will have the shloka up on the slide anyway. So a little bit closer look at how this cognition takes place in Vedanta. Okay, where did we start? we said there is only one Chaitanya. And that Chaitanya gets reflected in this buddhi. That was the word Vidyaranya Swamiji used. He said half part of it you call it as ahankara, another half you call it as antahkarana, or the mind. Now don't divide it into literal half. It is just functionally, they are two different things. One is called ahankara, second is called the mind. So in Sanskrit, ahankara, knower, is called as pramata, and the thought which is there, it is called as pramana. Now you might ask, oh, indriya was pramana, sense organ was pramana. How come you are saying mind is pramana? This is secondarily, sense organs will be pramana as a thought only. Like when we say eyes, what we mean is the thought or the sense organ, the subtle aspect of it, which is presiding over these eyes, not the physical eyes. So in that way you can understand pramana means a thought. And prameya means object. Okay, different objects, same thing what we saw before. The mind going and pervading these objects, taking the form of this object, is called as Vriti Vyapti. Okay, this is a technical word. It will come in several places. But with regards to Pratyaksha Pramana, with regards to cognition, Vedanta says the same consciousness, don't forget this Chaitanya, that has gotten reflected in this buddhi, and that will take a form of a thought. Who will take a form of a thought? Same consciousness. Okay, that consciousness will take the form of a thought, and it will pervade that object, which is prameya. But we should remember, in and through all these things, it is consciousness and consciousness alone. Different name and forms are there, but that doesn't bring about any change in Chaitanya. Okay, this is called as Vritti Vyapti, thought pervading an object. After or right at that moment when the thought pervades, there is another aspect in ourselves which says, I know that object. Thought pervading is one aspect, but knowledge taking place of that object is another aspect. So that is called as Phala Vyapti. Phala means that knowledge itself is the phalam. The whole process, whatever we did, knowledge of that object itself is the phalam. That is why it is called as Phala Vyapti. Okay, this knower claims that I know this object. In this way, it is said cognition takes place. I just wanted to bring these terms back again, Vritti Vyapti and Phala Vyapti. And these three things, Pramata is the knower, Pramana is the mind or the thought, and then Prameya is the object. Okay, when these three things come together, Pramata, Pramana, Prameya, then cognition takes place. This concept we recently saw in Atma Bodha also, but we had seen it from a different light. What did Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji say there? He said, Atmanaha Satchidamshascha. I just brought the same image from the previous slide in a different way here. So let us say this is pure consciousness. Atmanaha Sat Chit Amshascha. Sat and Chit, existence and consciousness aspect of Chaitanya. Buddhehe Vrittihi iti dvayam. Of this buddhi which is there, the thought modification aspect. You can include both now. Pramata, the knower, and the thought itself. When both these two things come together, that is when I get this idea, I know. Atmanaha Satchidamshascha, Buddhehe Vrittihi iti dvayam, Sanyojya cha avivekena. That is the main part. Janami iti pravartate. Janami means I know. But what Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji is saying here is, Inquire whether both these two things can come together. Inquire whether Atma, which is Sat Chit Swarupa, and this thought, this mind, this object, how can they actually be together in the same degree of reality? So then Bhagavan says, inquire right there, you will come to know one is Satyam, another is an appearance. In that way, they can coexist, not with same degree of reality. Just like the rope and the snake can coexist in the same place. There is no space actually for that snake to come because it's filled with rope. But how is that snake appearing there in that rope? We say because one is real, another is unreal. So here also, consciousness is existence of the nature of Chaitanya Swarupa. That and this thought, it can coexist because one is real, another is an appearance. So our acharyas don't leave scope for any vagueness, or they want to make sure that we meditate even while we are doing Pratyaksha Vyavahara. If somebody understands this concept, right, that Pratyaksha Pramana or Pratyaksha Vyavahara, transaction is happening only because of adhyasa, superimposition, right? Consciousness cannot modify. Mind, sense organs, everything is inert. Both of them are coming together, and I'm saying, I know. How is that happening? This is inquire right there. We don't have to worry about stopping perception. We just have to shift our attention back to our true nature. That is the main thing. That was the second shloka. Atmanaha vikriya nasti. Consciousness doesn't have modification. And mind, on the other hand, is inert. And it's constantly undergoing modification. Jivaha sarvam alam jnatva jnata drashta iti muhyati. Without inquiring into this, how these two things are coming together, this jiva goes around saying, I know this, I know that. So Pratyaksha Pramana also, if we pay close attention to, a lot of things will open up about Vedanta. Main point is Janami, that part. Now there is another verse which many of us are very familiar chanting, but that also relates back to this. This is from Guru Stotram. We say, Chinmayam Vyapti Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam. Important point to note here is not Mano Vyapti Sarvam. Right? Other school of thought said, mind pervades the thing. It might be, but what is riding over that mind? What is that substratum in which mind is able to go out and pervade? That is Chinmaya. Chinmayam Vyapti Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This is also Pratyaksha Pramana. Then in Dakshinamurti Stotram, there is this example given of a Halloween pumpkin. Just like you have a lamp inside, you might see light emanating from the eyes of that pumpkin, the ears of that pumpkin and everything. But actually speaking, that light doesn't belong to that aperture. It is that lamp which is there inside, by which only these lights are emanating. So this shloka says, just like there are apertures in that pumpkin, we also have several sense organs. Nana chidra. Chidra means apertures. Nana chidra ghatodhara stitamaha deepa prabha bhaswaram. Janam jnanam yasyatu chakshuradikarana dwara bahispandate. In Pratyaksha Pramana, according to Vedanta, sense organs are very much there. Mind very much goes and pervades everything. But the main thing is, all of it is the play of Chaitanya. Why? Because mind borrows its existence from consciousness. Mind borrows its sentiency from consciousness. Janamiti tameva bhantam anubhati etat samastam jagat. Means this entire creation I am experiencing, saying this janami. But I should make sure I don't stop at sense organs, nor should I stop at the mind. I should go to the lamp which is there inside. Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. That original source of light, that is my Dakshina Murti. To Dakshina Murti, I do my pranams. Bhagavan Shiva said, that is my Rama. In Shiva Gita we saw it. The one who is illuminator of thoughts. The one in whose light this entire creation is appearing and becoming known. That is my Bhagavan. Was it too heavy until now? All of you are with me so far. Can we go further? So what did we see until this point? Pratyaksha Pramana we started. Sense organs are exclusive means of knowledge. But then we saw different ways in which cognition takes place. Somebody said sense organ, somebody said mind, and Vedanta said everything is play of Chaitanya. We accept Pramata Avachinna Chaitanya, Pramana Avachinna Chaitanya, Prameya Avachinna Chaitanya. When they come together, knowledge takes place. Now, there is a objection by Dvaita Darshna. You remember the topic we raised about Savikalpa, Nirvikalpa. I said that is different school of thought. We will come to what Vedanta has to say. So Dvaita Darshana says that knowledge is always Savikalpa. It can never be Nirvikalpa. Okay, they say that knowledge can never be Nirvikalpa. It is always Savikalpa. You might not be able to express it, but that doesn't mean attributes are not there. Like they will take the same example. We took this example for Nirvikalpa, right? We say if you see a flower, then you remember a lot of things about that flower, what you have to do and so on. But if you see this flower that you don't know anything about, then nothing comes to mind. So they say no. Still so many things come to your mind, you might not want to express it. You still see the colors, variety of colors which are there. You still see some kind of shape, some kind of, something else which is coming to your mind right now. The child example which is there also we use this example for Nirvikalpa. He said when the child sees in the first time, it doesn't see anything, just sees a form. So they say no. The child sees several things. He has so much of emotions also. It is just that he is not able to express it. That is why it doesn't mean that knowledge is Nirvikalpa. Okay, so they say knowledge is always Savikalpa. Now you see what is the implication of this? According to them, knowledge of world is Savikalpa. Knowledge of Brahma is also Savikalpa. Because they say there is no Nirvikalpa object of whose knowledge you have ever gained. In the world, they will say, you find one Nirvikalpa object, that which doesn't have attributes. First of all, you will not find such an object. It will have some shape, it will have some form, some attribute will be there. Even if you find such a thing, tell one knowledge that has taken place of this Nirvikalpa object. So they say everything in this creation is Savikalpa only, including Brahma. Okay, this is their standpoint. From this, different darshanas come. That is why they have to add the word Vishishta. Vishishta means qualified. There is some kind of conditioning which is there on Brahma. Okay, this is one darshana, Dvaita Darshana. Then comes another darshana, Boudha Darshana. There are different school of thoughts within Buddhism also. This is in particular Madhyamika Bauddha, means Shunyavada, or Yogachara, Kshanika Vijnana. These are two schools of Buddhism within the bigger spectrum. So what they say is, knowledge is always Nirvikalpa. It is never Savikalpa, it is always Nirvikalpa. You say, why is that? According to them, with their conviction, when we study darshanas, hopefully we'll get a taste for this. It's a very beautiful world of darshanas. A lot of thinking is done. They say what you are calling as world is not even a substance to begin with. What I call as a very solid substance, they say it's only samskaras which are appearing. Like in dream. So if it is only samskara, what are you talking about? Savikalpa and all these different attributes in that. It's not even there to begin with. You are only seeing that perception. There is no actual substance called as world. Now remember, this is not a casual statement they are making. They have thought through things. They have maturely understood nature of this world. And then they have come to this conclusion. That this prapancha that we are seeing is nothing but thoughts. At the same time, they have elaborate Achara Samhita. Achara Samhita means how should be my conduct in this world which is an appearance. That is called darshana. You cannot just make a statement and go away saying that this world is mithya but not know how to live in it. But if you ask conviction, they say, of course, whatever you see outside is mere thoughts. Okay, this is Bauddha Darshana. They say Nirvikalpa is the only thing. Knowledge is always Nirvikalpa. There is nothing called as Savikalpa. Okay. Now, what does Vedanta say? Vedanta's view on Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa. Vedanta says that knowledge of the world will always be Savikalpa. And knowledge of Brahma will always be Nirvikalpa. You ask why? Bhagavan Shankaracharya would say, knowledge will take place according to the nature of the object. If object is Savikalpa, knowledge of that will be Savikalpa. So you say in that form of that child seeing the mother or seeing a person, he says those vikalpas are there even in the form of thoughts. Right? So knowledge will always of the world will always be Savikalpa only. With attributes you will have knowledge of that. But here is the important point. Nature of Brahma is Nirvikalpa. Okay, nature of Brahma is Nirvikalpa. So knowledge of Brahman will also be Nirvikalpa. Now you might ask, how can Bhagavan Shankaracharya say this? That knowledge, nature of Brahma is Nirvikalpa. He says, I am not saying this. Upanishad is saying this. That is the difference between Bauddha Darshana and Vedanta Darshana. They do not consider Upanishad as Pramana. Right? Bauddha Darshana doesn't consider Vedas as Pramana, Upanishad as Pramana. What is the nature of Brahma? Bhagavan Shankaracharya says we don't have choice to hypothesize in the beginning. After we take certain Upanishad mantras which reveal nature of Brahman as Nirvikalpa, as Nirguna, then we will use logic. Okay, so that is why he says nature of Brahman, knowledge of Brahman will always be Nirvikalpa, because Brahman itself is Nirvikalpa. And then nature of this world will always be Savikalpa. Don't struggle to make it Nirvikalpa. Trying to see homogeneous, creation with names and forms. That will not happen because it has Vikalpa. There are certain more aspects to this. It will help a lot in our sadhana. How is this knowledge going to take place? Brahma Jnanam. Okay. Because somebody can question, you show me one object of whose Nirvikalpa Jnanam has taken place. If there is no object, how do you claim that knowledge of Brahma will take place, which is Nirvikalpa? Okay, so that process of knowledge also is very interesting. That we will see in the next session. There were a lot of questions last time, so I have noted all of them. We will discuss in a few minutes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So you can reflect more on what we discussed today. If there are more thoughts, questions, you can ask. Many of you asked about how do we re-listen to these talks. What we used to do while listening was record it on our phone. And we realized we don't have time to re-listen to the whole thing. So just write down the timestamp. If it is between 10 to 15 minutes or 20 or so on, we can just go back to that portion, re-listen to that portion and see what we missed. Okay, so that is one way. This is on or off? I can turn it off. I think we are done. There are two aspects to this question. It seems to me that I have developed a level of maturity to have these doubts. Or when one is faced with a crisis in life and the infinitude in me is the only way to get over the obstacle, until then, I seem to be satisfied with a limited existence. There is clearly a flaw in the way that I'm thinking, but I'm not able to find the key to unlock this question. Good. This is a sincere sadhaka, trying to understand, internalize the teaching. Face crisis in life. Only way to get over obstacle until I seem to be satisfied. Right. This struggle we will find, and we should find, once we start studying Vedanta. That I know that I am Brahma, but when it comes to a crisis, having some kind of difficulty in holding on to that understanding. And I also know that without knowing myself to be Brahma, solution is not going to be permanent. That is why this part of the question comes. The infinitude in me is the only way to get over the obstacle. If somebody has come to this level, we have already crossed a lot of barriers. Until then, I seem to be satisfied with limited existence. So Vedanta is very, very practical in giving solutions. Vedanta will also not dismiss solutions at limited existence level. So we should appreciate all three levels of solution. There is a small catch over here in the question which is asked, right? Faced with a crisis in life and infinitude in me. So first solution of Vedanta is crisis and the knowledge that I am Brahma both cannot go together. Right? Because just like snake and rope cannot be of the same degree of reality, any experience in this world and I am Brahma cannot be of the same degree of reality. If that I'm able to hold on to, my job is done. With sincere, precise knowledge of Vedanta, purity of mind, whatever is needed, I will do for that. And hold on to this knowledge that Brahma Satyam, Jagat is an appearance. In particular, I just need to bring this knowledge in those few experiences which bother me. You see, otherwise, in general, we have no problem. Jagat is mithya is not a problem. Those few places, people with whom we have strong opinions about. True sadhana is that if somebody can bring this understanding that, what am I holding on to? Right? That is one level. Second is, limited existence level. If I say I am this individual, it is said hold on to the title of a devotee. That I am Bhagwan's devotee, whatever experiences are coming my way, my Bhagwan only is sending me. And it's okay, because I love my Bhagwan so much. Whatever he sends, there is some kind of teaching that he has to give me. Now, this is a solution at limited existence level. There is a third level also, which is completely vyavaharic. It is said, whatever is needed in that situation, do what is needed according to dharma. Okay. This is the third level. At the level of vyavahara, dharmic vyavahara will be whatever I have to do. Now, all three will help me in overcoming crisis. Dharmic vyavahara also, devotion to Bhagwan also, knowing the absolute nature of truth also. It is only a matter of which one I am able to hold on to. Okay. You see, yesterday's story we saw, right, about Naradji. We'll cover it again tomorrow. You will notice all three things Bhagwan practices. All three solutions. Now let us take the example. What was the crisis for Naradji? Or for Bhagwan it was, Naradji was accusing Bhagwan. And if those words come from somebody who is very near to you, very dear to you, it hurts even more. Right? So Bhagwan is hearing all these things from Naradji. And somewhere he brings up some topic and says, Samudra Manthanam, you did this and did that. Bhagwan must be wondering, all these thoughts you had in your mind about me? First level of solution for this crisis is knowing that it is Maya Nagari. Right? That is where it started. That this whole Srinivasapura, which was greater than Srinivasapura, that city, was just a projection to teach lesson to Naradji. So several anubhava that comes in our life, if we have done clear Vedanta Shravanam, done Nididhyasanam, one should be able to hold on to this fact that these experiences are like clouds passing in the sky. It's not a substance that I need to get so bothered about. Second level is devotion level. Bhagwan only is prompting Naradji to say these things. Right? Later on, Naradji says that I only wanted you to say these things. So in our life also different experiences come. That way we can look at it. That my Bhagwan is sending this. And third is at dharma level. Means Bhagwan doesn't have any revenge towards Naradji after he says that. He says whatever had to happen was there. Now you go and do some nama japa so that you are purified. So that is dharmic vyavahara after both these two solutions have been thought about, internalized and practiced. So both we should keep thinking how to put all this technical information into our understanding. Both are important. In Gita, it is said, and also in Kathopanishad, that there is a gradation that sense objects are on a higher pedestal than sense objects. Does that mean that sense objects are pushing knowledge to sense organs? And it is not sense organs that are collecting the knowledge. If this is the case, then how mind pervades the object? Is it just processing the information pushed towards it? Okay. When in Kathopanishad it is said, sense objects are higher than sense organs. What it means is, there are different reasons. One reason is this, that sense object will decide whether or not it will reveal itself to sense organ. If there is sound, that sound will not reveal itself to eyes. If there is form, that form will not reveal itself to ears. So sense object is deciding towards which sense organ it will reveal itself. So that is one reason why we say sense objects are at a higher pedestal. Another reason is we cannot establish the presence of sense organs without their objects. Means we will not even be able to know that we have eyes unless we can see. We will not be able to hear. We will not be able to establish that I have ears. Ears mean don't see this, physical ear, the ability to hear, unless there is sound which is getting known to it. So that is why we say sense organs are at a higher pedestal. So we don't have to mix it up over here. But important point is what we saw in the beginning of the class, right? That mind takes the form of that object. So we should not look at mind as something which is inside and it is just processing information which is pushed into it. It might be possible that sound is coming from that object to here. That's why we saw those 5 examples, right? In case of touch and in case of taste, contact has to happen for knowledge to take place. But other things, even without that contact of sense organ with that thing, mind will be able to go and pervade that thing. Okay, so it is not only processing, but it is taking the form of that object. On top of that, you can process it. That is Anumana. Okay, we will see that more later. How do we differentiate between Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha and the situation where mind is not with sense organs and hence no knowledge is taking place? I hope this question is answered today, how Vedanta looks at Nirvikalpa. We don't say Nirvikalpa is that previous definition that we saw. You see a child seeing the world, that is not Nirvikalpa. Vedanta says Nirvikalpa is only Brahma. World is always Savikalpa. Knowledge of world will be always Savikalpa. In today's means that days, today's Pramana Vichar class, we studied from Sankhya Darshna that mind takes the form of sense objects. I am seeing it first as a thought in my mind. So is it correct to understand that projection of the snake we see superimposed on the rope is actually in the mind? Is it only the snake or even the rope that is appearing in the mind? The first part is true. The snake that we are seeing on the rope is not appearing outside. It's appearing in the mind. That is why different people can see different things on that same rope, according to samskara. Somebody sees a garland, crack on the earth, so on. But we don't necessarily need to mix that example with Pramana Vichara of Pratyaksha Pramana. You know why? Because Brahma is there. Whenever there is Brahma, it is not called as Prama. What did we say? It was Abadhitam and Asandigdham. No doubt should be there. So the thought is good, the thought is correct, but we don't have to mix it up with Pramana Vichara topic. So Vedanta will say everything is a appearance only, including this mind, that snake, that rope, everything. But for the sake of understanding, we make this distinction. One is outside, another is inside. That is why that pot example, what we saw today, right? Infinite space, different conditioning, it gets different names. So in the same way, different conditionings, same consciousness gets different names. There is a follow-up to this. Also, how do we understand the play of gunas outside? For example, if I interact with someone and see some weakness or negativity outside, then is that something which is in my mind? So negativity is not part of Pratyaksha Pramana. Pratyaksha Pramana's role is just to give information like a video camera. Like you have this camera doesn't care what comes in front of it. It will just give information as it is. So I might see certain things, I might hear certain things. Just those words hitting my eardrum, that is Pratyaksha Pramana. Now on top of that, mind does a lot of processing. That depends upon our values, our samskaras, our understanding of Bhagavan. All those things play a role in deciding the impact of that knowledge. Right? So Pratyaksha Pramana's role is only to report things as sense organs are seeing it. The understanding part of it, that depends on this mind. That is the reason why saints and other people, in spite of living in the same world, their understanding of the world was different. Right? Pratyaksha Pramana was same for both of them. They also saw certain thing in one way. Other person also saw it the same way. So Pratyaksha Pramana's role is only to give that data. Processing part is our own samskara. In that way we should look at it. Okay, there are few more also. I have noted all the questions and we'll discuss it next time. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.